I've still to this day never talked to them on the phone or in person. And we did several $1,000 significant project for them. And they weren't even in the country for most of it.
Well, it officially feels like winter out here in Illinois. We are in the middle of November and the wind is blowing 30 miles an hour. There is a little bit of snow on the ground and my dog no longer wants to go out to pee by herself. So welcome to winter, fellas. It's Ryan, your host at the Skid Steer Nation podcast. And I am down in the home office, all blacked out. We're still working on this. I'm excited to do some more work in here. But today I've got a guy that's literally my neighbor. He's just a few hours away. He's in the great state of Iowa. And if you guys have been following me, you know I love to ride my bicycle over there like a nut job. And he's from a little town, an area called Lighton. It's near Knoxville. It's the southeast corner, not quite Missouri, Arkansas, but he's getting down that way. He's been in business for quite a while. His daughter's in college. His son's getting older. And I'm excited to just hear his journey, the experience he's learned over the years, the things that he's made him better business owner, better customer service, and to kind of go from there. So we are going to skip the ad rolls for Skid Steer Nation and Groundbreaking Growth. Most people, you guys listen to this, you know it's in the bio to click the link. So without further ado, let's bring in Charlie Thomas from Dirtworx Unlimited. Charlie, thanks for joining the show.
Thank you. I appreciate the invite.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I noticed that you created your Facebook page. Was it 2013?
I don't know if it was that long ago. My Dirtworx side of things was more around 2019, 2020 that I started messing with that. But my Facebook page, my personal one, I guess a long time ago. Yeah. My business.
I was just looking at your business page. I was like, wow, he's had this business page for, it looked like about 10 years or so. So
I've done a couple different things in business. I've had multiple businesses along the way, and yeah, so I've probably repurposed that page from a previous business because when I first started this one, I actually ran it under a different LLC. We had to have a LLC called C. Thomas Enterprises, and we ran like a hotshot trucking company for several years. And I started that because my parents kind of wanted to retire. And so we dabbled in that for a while, and they got to the point where it was actually ready to retire and be done, stay at home instead of go see the country, like what they wanted to do with that. So we kind of shut all that stuff down. And then I was like, okay, now I got all this time. What am I going to do? So I thought, well, maybe I'll get into the dirt work thing. I mean, we farm. We had bought during that time, bought a mini excavator for doing work on the farm. And as soon as I got it, everybody around was like, hey, can you come do this? Hey, can you come do that? And we'd had a skid loader for years, and one thing led to another. And I'm like, well, maybe I'm tired of corporate America. Maybe I want to get out of that world and do something else. I'll see where this takes me. Equipment and all of that stuff has been, all my life. My grandpa he owned a rental business and heavy equipment company, construction company. My dad went through all of that, ran that business with him for years. So I've been running heavy equipment since I was little. So It's all kind of nature, and just, I love it. And I was like, heck, if I could go play in a sandbox for a living, let's do that.
We're just grown up 8-year-olds. I mean, we are
exactly.
If women could understand, like, if they truly could understand how simple we are, like, they just doubt it. Like, there's no way they're that simple. We're seriously that simple. Like,
I'm pretty fortunate. I think mine's figured that out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Life is good.
Like, I'll tell a joke and she will look at me and roll her eyes and be like, I thought you were educated. And I was like, I thought you knew guys like stupid jokes. Like, I'll be 75 years old telling really dumb jokes because they're still funny to me.
Yep. Yeah, I totally get that.
Yeah. And anyway, I've got a quick question because it was the first thing I came from the manufacturing world before we started Skid
Hmm.
Steer Nation, and plus with Skid Steer Nation, we do a lot with shipping and logistic companies.
Hmm.
It's literally my least favorite part of owning a business that ships larger product. How
Okay.
in God's green earth did you enjoy running a hot shot business? Because that's a whole nother level of crazy.
Yeah. So our primary business was hauling enclosed trailers from the manufacturers to the dealers, all the dealer
Mm,
networks all over the nation. So we were kind of specialized in that niche. We had equipment specifically set up for that. We hauled some cars and trucks and different stuff too, but that was kind of filler. The majority of our deal, we had 5 trucks running full time, and they would load out of Clarinda, which is about a little over 2 hours from here, over in southwest Iowa. And
that's where CL Fabrication is. That's FYI. We sell all their attachments. Had to get that plug in there.
okay,
Sorry, Craig. Sorry.
all right. So we would haul out of there, and it took a little while to figure out because everybody that I knew that had been in that business said, if you can get paid going out and coming back, that's what you have to do, this and that. Well, I found that that wasn't necessarily true because I was making significantly more per mile loaded with trailers than I was with cars. So if it was going to cost me a day or a day and a half to put on cars to come back, it wasn't worth it because our trucks would get such good mileage coming home empty.
Yep.
So if we were within 500 miles, we didn't mess with backhauls at all. To come back, get another load of trailers, and go.
So if you were
And we
in
did
Clarinda, were you running for H&H trailer?
that was our primary. Yeah, we here in Iowa we have Aluma, H&H, and Featherlight. So we ran for all of those, and then we ran some stuff out of Missouri. We ran some manufacturer stuff out of like Ohio when we'd get out that way. There was one down in Kansas, Blue Springs, Kansas. We would run some stuff out of, but primarily I would say 90% of the business was with H&H.
Okay. So here's an interesting little tidbit fact. H&H Trailer was named after the two family members that started it. So it was Hull and Hull.
Mm-hmm.
Curtis Hull, when they sold that to a larger company, I think I don't know details. I don't want to
Mm-hmm.
speculate, but I think sometimes it's easier to sell a business than deal with the family issues that are developed. Like, I don't know. Curtis
Right.
Hull started CL Fabrication, and it stands for Curtis and Lisa Fabrication. Lisa's his wife. So CL Fabrication, who makes the Dominator, the Land Leveler, and the other attachments we sell on our website, they
Uh-huh.
started with H&H Trailer with their father and brother, I think, grew that business, sold it to a larger trailer company, and then started
Right.
CL Fabrication for themselves.
Huh. That's interesting. I did not know that.
Yeah. Yeah. Little,
I knew
little.
the whole family and that stuff, and I know they got back into the trailer business
So
down in
his
Missouri.
brother started another business. I can't remember the name of it.
It's Hall Trailers.
Hall Trailers. Okay.
Yeah.
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 Because when I was looking to buy a trailer, I called him, and this was back during COVID, and it was like
Mm-hmm.
a 14-month lead time.
Mm.
Like it was bananas back during the pandemic.
Yeah, I was looking for a trailer for the excavation business at that time, and I was pretty specific about what I wanted. I wanted a B&B, Binky Enterprises. They're built up in northern Iowa. Phenomenal trailer. I wanted that. I wanted a tilt deck. I wanted 24K capacity, and so I called them, and they're like, "Well, you got to deal with a dealer." And I said, okay, so who's your biggest dealers? Who moves the most or who has something in stock? And he's like, nobody. So I was using the internet, looking all over the place. And I found a company in, I think it was in Indiana that had a trailer that I was just, surfing the web one night, looking at trailers, see what was out there. Cause I was going to have to buy something. And that one popped up, and I sent him an email. Like literally, I refreshed the page, it popped up. I sent him an email and said, "I want it." I don't, I didn't ask how much it was. I just said, "I want it." And they called me the next morning, and a guy had special ordered the trailer and paid the deposit on it, and never came and picked it up. And it had been sitting on their lot for like 4 months. the guy or emails, he nothing. And I'm like, okay, so what's the deal? What do I gotta do? I want this thing like yesterday. And I'm kind of, it says my connection isn't stable again, but anyway, they said, well, we'll tell you what he put down on it, we'll sell it to you for what he owes on it if you want it. And I was like, perfect, I'll come get it. Where can I get it? And they said, well, these are actually built in Iowa. And I said, yeah. I said, I'm aware. They said, well, we got a truck that's going to be in here tomorrow bringing new product, and we're sending some stuff back to the factory for some warranty work. If you're interested, we can just put it on that truck and send it back to Iowa, and you can just pick it up there. I was
Hell
like,
yeah.
perfect. What do we got to do? Wire transfer, boom, done. And we went and picked up the trailer that weekend.
That's fantastic. That's neat.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. Cool. I'm my mind's stuck on one topic, so I'm going to kind of jump around here. This is kind of,
that's fine.
As a podcast host, I try really good to like transition from topic to topic. And every now and then I'm like, no, I'm not good at that today. Like, it's just like, I'm dying to hear, like, you're from Iowa. I know how the economy was this year in the Midwest, but I kind of want to hear from you. Like, how was 2024 for you compared to the last 2 or 3 years before?
It was good. Every year on year, it's gotten better and better every year. 2024 was extremely good, and it still is. We still got a lot going on. The ground's not froze, so we're not done working. But I mean, really, really busy. A lot of things going on. Really making me try to figure out where do I want to focus my business, because up to this point, getting started and getting rolling, my main goal was to be a problem solver for whoever had a problem. I have the equipment or the muscle to get it done, and pretty unique equipment in this area, with the rotator and that type of stuff. So
I was just going to say, I can see the rotator in the background. So
yeah, I was doing some maintenance on it. Yeah, so my main thing was I wanted to be that guy that if somebody had a problem and they didn't know what the answer was, they call me and I'll get it figured out. Now the business has gotten busy enough that I don't have to be everybody's easy button. I can kind of pick and choose a little bit more about, what do I enjoy, or what do I want to do, where's the margins the best. I would rather do what has the best margins, or where I can make the most money, so I don't have to work 24 hours a day. Or if I want to work 3 days this week, I can make enough money in 3 days that's fine. Now I can go chase my kids and do whatever. So trying to streamline and I don't know, structure my business to be what it's meant to be, the income that allows me to live my life.
You're a man after my own heart, Charlie. When you say you were everybody's easy button, were you talking primarily like residential, agricultural clients, or are you working more with contractors and commercial? Like what? And I know you're going to say a broad mix of everything, but like, where did you find that you're spending a majority of your time?
I would say in the very beginning, it was with other contractors. There were a few an electrical contractor and a couple concrete guys that did a lot of flat work type stuff, but didn't have the heavy equipment. They would rent and, go that route. What they wanted to do is put concrete on the ground, and that's it. They didn't want to bust old stuff out, all of that. So at first, that's kind of what I did with the rotator and stuff. I can get in extremely tight places, and I got a big demo grapple, so I got to throw the hammer on it, break it in a couple of spots, and I can pick up a 4,000 or 5,000 pound chunk of concrete, throw it in my dump truck, and be in and out in no time doing the demo work, and then do a rough grade. They come in, do their thing. If they needed some rock or something and didn't have a dump truck, I have my little my little single axle dump truck so I could bring them enough rock to do what they needed to do. And then once they were done doing what they were doing and stripped everything, then I could go back in after them and pretty everything up.
Got it. But how about this last year in 2024? You say you keep growing and then you had a really good year. Are you doing more one-off projects? Or are you getting tied in with larger commercial projects?
Less commercial really. What I guess I don't know if it was on your podcast or a different one, but I heard one time that it somebody said it was pretty risky to be completely dedicated to other contractors because if this slows down and outsourcing stuff is the first thing that's going to go. You know, they could go rent equipment and do it themselves, maybe not as efficiently, but you know, go that route. So I was like, okay, well, maybe I don't want to be dependent on contractors and stuff. So I wanted to get a good mix of the commercial and the residential. And so that's what I've tried to maintain, but I would say it's probably 60-40. I would say 60% my own stuff, residential stuff, 40% subcontracting for other contractors now.
I think that's a really good mix. Even if it was flip-flopped where 60 subcontract, 40 your own, I mean, you can easily grow 40% of your business into 80% if things change with your contractors. It's when like you're 100% dependent on others.
I'm never that way.
Yeah. Like we live in Peoria, Illinois, and I mean, I had a lot of friends that either worked for companies, and a couple of my friends, their family owned companies that were parts suppliers or service providers for Caterpillar. And that literally 100% of their business was CAT dependent. So when CAT decides to be like, hey, I know we've been partnered for 40 years, but we need to find a 3% reduction. So we're going to open up the bid to other companies. Like my one friend's dad, he literally told the guy at CAT, he's like, you can go F off. I'm selling the business. I'm done with your shit. Like, because they owned them in essence.
Yep. I've seen that. I've seen that locally. A buddy of mine from the Chicago area came over here and partnered up with a buddy of mine that lives here, and they started a laser cutting business. And they were probably 75% of what they did for John Deere and Atumwa.
Mm-hmm.
And the other parts of it was, you know, just other businesses or whatever. Well, I'm sure you probably know, like John Deere and what's going on now is substantially worse. But you know, there was times when John Deere would make a decision and say, "Oh, we're bringing all this back in house and all this," and everything would just shut down. And Mike, the guy that owned and was the money behind everything, Jason was the guy here that was the operator. He knew everything, and he actually worked for John Deere, you know, at that time. Mike says, yeah, I'm not going to be controlled by anything like that. So he shut it down, sold everything, and went back to what he was doing. Well, focused on his other business.
Yeah. And we're getting off topic, but I think there's a lot of lessons to learn about diversification, even in this conversation. Like before we started Skid Steer Nation, I was working at an engineering machining company, and we did a lot of tooling, which is fixtures for manufacturing. So it was internal tooling to produce products, and we would design, build, and install. And we did a lot of work with CAT, John Deere, all that. And John Deere, they're tough to work with.
Yeah.
And it's not only that, but like you had to be part of their system, and then it was an open bidding system. And then all they cared about was the dollar amount, not the quality all the time. And then again, just like you said, they will make decisions on a snap whim and change direction. And then and then you watch through the pandemic. I was already out of that industry, but I could still watch it and understand it. Like they didn't know which direction they were going. Their supply chain was screwed up. They couldn't get materials, and they were making 87 different decisions. And then they started doing all that DEI shit. And like they really lost who they were for like a 2 or 3 year period. And I would say personally, looking from the outside, they're still not sure who they are internally at the moment, but they know that they know they need to change directions. I'll at least give them that.
Right. No, through the pandemic, I worked for a local company, a large lighting company. But so that was one. A lot of people said to me, you're going to walk away from that security and go do this, and I was like, yep.
Yeah.
And then they're like, you're out of your mind. We have no idea where the world's going and all that stuff, and we're going to find out. So
And I've got a simple saying I say to everybody that is thinking about starting a business. I'm like, well, you have two choices. You can either break your back building somebody else's dream, or you can break your back building yours.
right, yep. If you're not willing to go out and chase your dreams, somebody will hire you to chase theirs.
They will hire you to chase theirs. And here's the kicker: when you get hired by somebody else, they're trying to hire you for the least amount of value for the most amount of output, not give you the most value for the quality of output you provide.
Right,
Like it's the dark side of the other coin, right?
right,
Like you could take that skill set and run your own business. And yeah, it's difficult because you got to add in customer service and marketing and all these different hats you didn't have, but your value is 4x, 5x, 10x than it is as just an employee for somebody else's dream.
right.
It's like, what is it worth it or not?
It wasn't to me anymore.
Well, it's a personal decision, though. Right? I know a lot of people who just are not built to be a business owner, and they know it, and they're
Right,
cool with it.
right. And we need those people. Those people are, they help make the world go round too. I mean, if there wasn't people out there looking for a job and looking to get hired and have that security, then be a be an interesting world.
Well, and I exactly, and I think that's one of the things as a business owner, you have to know that you still have to invest your time and your knowledge developing and growing your team. You can't do it with fear that they're going to leave and become your competition.
Right,
Right? Like, yeah, anyone can go buy a skid steer with cat zero down. I get it, but not everybody wants that headache. Some people just want to be part of the team, the culture, the community. And if you build the right community, 90% of the people won't leave because they don't have the ambition of being the business owner.
right,
And as a business owner, it's hard to comprehend that because you assume everyone's wired the way you're wired.
right. And so when I went to work for that lighting company, I worked for them for 13 years, and I I enjoyed it. They were a good company to work for. If I was going to go that route in corporate America, I would probably go back there, which I have the opportunity to do if I wanted to. Um, but I was never happy. So I had my own, how I went to work for them is I owned my own business and they bought me out and
Uh-huh.
I went to work for them. And then I ran their operation doing the same thing that I was doing before. And before I did that, so I was in marketing and graphics, owned a sign company. And then before that, my family owned an automotive and towing business for 20 years. So that's what my dad did. And, I went to school for collision tech, and I've got a degree in criminal justice and a bunch of stuff I don't use, but trying to figure out, where do I belong? Where do I fit? And working in corporate America, that was not being able to control my own destiny. It drove me nuts for a long, long time. I mean, I was ready to get out of there 5 years before I did it. I was probably ready to get out of there 5 years after I started it, but you get into that kind of comfort zone and the kids come along and then they're growing up and you're like, if it was just me, I would have never done it. But when you get
Right.
at the kids and a wife and that type of stuff, you're like, all right, it's not
Your
all about
priorities
me.
shift, right? Like
Right.
I can tolerate 8 hours a day to provide the lifestyle and the security for my wife and kids. Like it's
Right.
just a shift in priorities.
Yep.
And I don't know about you, Charlie, but nobody makes a change in any area of their life, whether it's starting a business, eating healthy, reading a book, like I don't care where it is, until the pain of being the same is so bad that the only option is change.
Right. That was probably the hardest thing is the last probably year and a half once I made that decision and knew where I was going, what the end goal was. That last year to year and a half of working for them was excruciating. I hated every second of it, because I knew where I wanted to be. I was working toward that. I was putting in all my spare time and effort into making that reality. So every minute that I spent working for them, was just slowing things down, getting in the way, and I despised it. I hated it. So the day that I was able to say enough and walk away was a really good day.
Yeah. No, I think everyone has a very similar style journey, right? Like I had the idea for Skid Steer Nation for years before I actually pulled the trigger, and it was because I was comfortable making a good salary, running a business that somebody else owned. So on Saturday, I didn't have to think about it because it wasn't mine. Like it was like the
Right.
best of both worlds. And I remember talking to the owner there and then actually the owner of another manufacturing company about my idea for Skid Steer Nation. And they're all like, let's do it. And the owner of the company I work for is like, yeah, we should build that and we could become that platform for these other manufacturers and ourselves. And I'm like,
Being
that doesn't help me. Like you're just wanting to use my, like, so that's like, to me, it just came to the point. I was like, oh, I do have a great idea. People do see the vision and value in it. They want to be associated to it. Why would I let them?
So when you were doing that, one of the struggles that I had working for somebody else is I could never shut it off because of the way my brain works. I cared about whether it was their business or my business, I treated it the same. So, like you said, being able to shut it off on Saturday, I had a hard time ever doing that. So that was always a big struggle for me. And as soon as they figured out that I was wired that way,
They took advantage
then
of you.
they took horrible advantage of it.
Yep.
Yeah, they would call me at, the owners, which they're great people, would do about anything for them. If something came up and there was an opportunity for hundreds of $1 million project potentially, and we could have some marketing materials on a plane to the Middle East or to Europe or something, and the plane could leave at 5 o'clock in the morning. Well, we needed to have this stuff done in some other language or whatever. They were calling me at 1 o'clock and saying, "Hey, can you come in and get this stuff done? Because it's got to be on a plane at 4 a.m." And
Yeah.
I'd get up and go do it.
Yeah. And I would have done the same thing because like you're there to make sure the business, like it's for the business, right? Like the
Right.
business has got to survive. But I just remember, and again, I think people learn this because they have to walk through the fire, not because they read it in a book. But I burnt myself out so bad in 2008, 9, and 11 when I owned bars and restaurants that like it caused, I mean, I shouldn't say that it caused me a marriage, but it definitely didn't help it. Right. It caused my health to get out of shape. It caused like, and I just remember going, like, all I thought about 24 hours a day was either what I had to do for that business or how much I hated it. So like the next step for me, my maturation process was you have to carve out personal time. Like there's times that, yeah, there's special incidences where you go above and beyond or you go outside the norm. But I'm not going to go in every Saturday at 10 a.m. because it's quiet and work for 4 hours because I don't get interrupted, because that becomes the norm if I start doing that.
Right.
Right. So like I'd always go in on Saturday and I usually spend 8 hours on a Saturday and sometimes go back on a Sunday prepping all of the materials and organizing shit for the annual inventory. And I wouldn't tell anyone I was doing it because I didn't want anyone else to show up. Right? I just want to get it done.
Right.
Because I just know how much smoother things run when you do all that prep work.
Right.
So it wasn't like Saturdays were a hard no, but every Saturday was a hard no. You know, and if there's nothing that you could do about it until Monday, I just was like, why would I waste 4 hours of my day worrying, thinking, developing scenarios in my head that probably won't even be true.
Right.
So, but you have to walk through that fire, I think, to get to the other side.
Yep. Yep.
It makes a great chapter in a book, but you got to walk it.
Right. I agree.
Yeah.
There's no replacement for firsthand experience.
No, there isn't. And if you keep making the same mistakes, then the world's not the problem. That's what I always say.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Like my buddy's like been in and out of relationships for years, and I'm like, "What's the common denominator?" He's like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "Well, you fucking meet all the girls at a bar. Like
Right.
you're just dating the same girl with a different haircut. Like you expect a
Right.
different outcome."
Yeah. I have friends like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Anyway.
tell them all the time. I was like, they're like, yeah, I'm seeing this girl. I met her at the bar. I'm like, yeah, who was seeing her last week? You know?
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
absolutely. That's where you just have to be wise enough to know that you're looking for a wife for the night, not for life.
Right.
See, that's one of those shitty jokes that Tracy would have rolled her eyes at. And I'm like, no, we're men. We'll always say that joke.
Right.
You talked a little bit about you're getting to a point with your business and the growth that you're having that you want to start niching a little bit more and being a little bit more selective in the services that you choose. If you're open with it, like walk me through where you're thinking of that. Like, where are you seeing the opportunities and what services are you thinking about saying no to on a more regular basis? And like, what's your vision for that dialing in of your company?
So some of that has already happened a little bit. But one of the things that I've got into more, I guess, this year and that I really enjoy is, and there's a need for, nobody around here really does it, is egress windows. So having the equipment to dig all that and then cut that and put everything in. I have some background in other construction and framing and that type of stuff, but I enjoy doing that. We just did one in town here. Uh, it was the craziest thing because these people contacted us through text messaging. I've still to this day never talked to them on the phone or in person, and we did several $1,000 project, a significant project for them. And they weren't even in the country for most of it. It was all wire transfer and money and dealing with text messaging back and forth and sending pictures of this is what we're going to do or this is what we ran into and how do you want to handle this? And it was crazy. We ended up taking out an egress window and putting in a door in a basement, but then we had to, build wall or pour walls and pour landings and pour stairs and do drainage and then build an enclosure over the top of it and, get the electricians involved. And it turned into kind of a crazy project and we did it like extremely quickly. I mean, went in, got the thing dug, tore the window out. There was an old foundation we found underground, had to take care of that. But I mean, start to finish, like a week and a half, something like that.
Not bad.
Yeah. And yeah, I enjoyed it. And now I got to do another, I got to take that egress stuff, the window and the window well that we took out. And they want me to put that in the front of the building and put an egress window in up there. So I've got two or three that I'm supposed to get done before the snow flies, and I'm not looking forward to cutting concrete and getting wet, but it is what it is.
It is what it is, right? Just remind yourself you could be sitting at a desk at 2 a.m. transcribing marketing materials into a different language.
Right. Right. No, yeah. I'll take this any day.
Yeah, that's an interesting service. I mean, you never hear guys talk about it because I think it's where you get blending, right? Like you get blending into dirt work, and you better know a little construction too.
Mm-hmm.
But and for me, my first question I had for you is like, is this a house they own for an Airbnb and they need more bedrooms to rent it at a higher rate?
So one of the ones that I have to do, that is exactly what it is.
I think there's a market there.
Yep. Yeah, they can charge I can't remember what they told me, but like their nightly fee or whatever goes up like 70% because it has another bedroom, because
Right.
I think right now it has two, and having three, there's such a huge need for the three bedroom versus the two bedroom. So it's well worth spending the money for them to do it.
Yeah, and you look at all these people that are getting into that arbitrage Airbnb business, VRBO and
Mm-hmm.
whatever. Like we looked at buying a cabin in Wisconsin a couple years ago, and that was one of the things that it needed was an egress window. So I was like, well, we can rent the equipment, do that, and then hire a guy to come in and build it, or my brother-in-law can come with me. But we were going to do it ourselves. But when you started saying that, I'm like, holy shit, like that's actually currently a big niche you could get into.
Yeah. And the nice thing is with, like the equipment and the truck and stuff that I have, um, I can, if we were just doing an egress window, I'm fairly confident I can do start to finish, in a day, just an
Right.
egress window. And, it pays pretty good. And the reason I got into it or started looking into it is a buddy of mine got a hold of me and wanted an egress window put in. And he had called every contractor in the area, and they're all like, no, we don't have time, or we don't do it, or we don't have the equipment to dig it, or whatever. So he ended up hiring a company out of like clear up by Ames. And they
Wow.
came down here with a dump truck pulling a dump trailer, and they had all the materials and the equipment in that tray in that truck, a little mini hoe, and they had the box partitioned off, so they had pea gravel in there, and then they had some clean dirt in there, and everything they needed right there in that truck. And it was a husband and wife deal, and they came down here and did that egress window for him in like a day. And there was pretty good money in that. I
Well,
was
and
like,
then, yeah. And you think about it, you can't have big equipment in a residential yard, right? So
right.
your operating cost of that little 5, 8, 10 ton mini,
Mm-hmm.
peanuts.
Right.
Like how much diesel fuel do you think that thing drank on a day and that and in someone's backyard? 2 gallons tops?
Right. Right. Yeah. It's the biggest thing with that would be, depending on the window size, is having the lifting capacity to get the concrete out of the hole.
Yeah.
Once you cut the hole in the wall, that would be the challenge, and I guess one of the limiting factors on the size of the equipment that you would need to have to get it up out of there.
I mean, what's worst case scenario? You just break it up a little bit more.
Cut it up
I mean,
more.
there's
Yeah.
always a workaround, right? But then,
Yeah. There
and
is.
I'm a big believer in like if you find a niche like that, how do we expand that to become an expert in all things similar to that? So my first thought, and tell me if I'm crazy, like wow, basement foundation repair, basement dewatering systems, external drainage, anything foundation related, because you've already got all these images, videos, and all that of you digging around a foundation. I mean, it's
Mm-hmm.
super easy to market yourself as the foundation
Right.
company.
Right. Yep. I do quite a bit of that. The waterproofing stuff. So I'll go in, dig them up, fix the perimeter drains if need be, put in exterior sump system if need be. And then I have a buddy of mine that does the, waterproof spraying, the rubberized coating deal. Call him, he'll come in and do that and cover it all up, make it look pretty, and down the road we go.
Out the door.
Yeah.
Love it.
I love that stuff. That's I've done a few of those. I really like the basement waterproofing side of things. It's the challenge with that side of it um is is figuring out, is the problem truly coming through the walls, or is it coming up through the floor?
Right.
Well, and yeah, there's some challenging ones around here. I'll never understand why they built what they built, where they built it, and sometimes the water table. We have a super nice housing development on a golf course on the south side of town, and that's where all the doctors and lawyers and all that stuff live. And they build these. It's an old coal mine, and the drainage
Shit.
out there is absolutely horrible. So these guys will go out there and build $500,000 or $1 million house, and I can take you a one right now. It's sitting on top of the hill, and then south
Nope, hold on. It's sitting on top of the hill is kind of where your internet cut out. So what can
So
you
it's sitting on top of the hill, so you wouldn't think it would have a huge problem. The basement's probably 3,000 square feet. It's four sump pumps in the basement of that house, and they
Oh my
run
God.
constantly. Yeah, it's it's crazy. I mean, how do you? I don't even know how you combat that. How you fix that?
Yeah, I mean that's groundwater, right? I don't know. Is there a way to combat that?
I don't know. That's above my pay grade, I think.
Yeah, there's a street just one over from us that there's like 15 houses and there's just one house. That damn sump pump runs nonstop in his basement. His neighbors don't have the problem. And it's like, I don't know if they just hit like a spring in the area or if it's just a natural crevice and that's where the
Mm-hmm.
water comes up. But yeah, he hates it.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, as far as the business, I guess what you were saying with trying to find the niches and stuff, the basement deal, the egress deal is a big thing. We've in the last couple years started getting more into the septic stuff. So
Hmm.
I do septic installs. There's a few guys around that do it, but it's there's always stuff to do. There's a lot of rural opportunities with everybody's wanting to move to the country, get out of town. And so people are moving out to the country and buying these old rundown farms, and they're either leveling the place and building new, or they like the character of this old farmhouse. So, they want to fix it all up and add on to it and all that stuff. So, um, doing the property cleanup, reclamation, whatever you want to call it, going in and getting rid of all the crap that's been there for 100 years, and tearing out trees and making it so you can see the house. And then they want to. I'm doing one about 10 miles north of here right now, and it was that way. They bought this place and they were trying to decide, do we knock it down or do we build a new one? And sorry, knock it down and build a new one, or do we fix this one? And they decided they wanted to fix that one. So then it just had a crawl space under it, but they wanted a basement. So now we're building an addition on that, or they are building an addition on the side. So for that one, I went in first and I cleaned up the property, got all the crap out, tore the trees down, ripped everything out, stripped everything so the construction guys could come in that were going to pour a basement and build
Had room
the
to work.
addition and all that. So I had to go in first, and the where the addition in the basement is going is where their existing septic system was. So I had to go in and put in a whole new septic system first. And then I had to go in, well, sorry, clear the place first, then put in a new septic system. Then I had to go in and dig the basement and dig out the old septic system, get rid of all that. Then the concrete guys come in, pour their walls and do all of that stuff. Then I got to go back in and clean everything up. We had to reroute electrical and water lines for a lot of stuff. So I was there. I've been there probably a month, and I've probably got 3 weeks to a month left of stuff to do there. I like projects like that. I mean, I've done a few
Well,
of them.
I, I'm just sitting here going, God, how does a homeowner say, yeah, let's pull a trigger on that? I mean,
Like I said, it's people that live in town and have been saving their pennies or whatever, and they're just tired of dealing with the political crap
yeah.
in town and sell everything.
So
And
I don't know if you remember or not, but I think it was like 2018, 19, 20, somewhere in that range. Kubota started building this massive factory out in Kansas,
okay,
like huge
all
for
right,
making mini excavators, skid steers, tractors. I mean, it was, and everyone's like, whoa, is their business growing that much? And they're like, we're projecting with the current political landscape and the age of people and all of this, all of our data research shows us that there's going to be a mass exodus from large cities into suburban areas and rural areas. And that's going to require X amount more machines whether by landowners or contractors, to fulfill the need
Mm-hmm.
of the migration out of the cities.
Mm-hmm. It makes sense. I mean, you see it all the time with the whole political thing. You know, people leaving California to get away from the craziness and
Oh, I don't
moving to
want to talk about
Texas.
that, Charlie, because those fucking assholes, not only do they leave California, they move into the new state and they want you to act like you're in California. And I'm like, you left there because they suck. Why do you want the same political landscape in Texas that you had stay in California? It drives me crazy.
Oh, I know, it drives me crazy
Oh,
too.
as you could tell, my heart rate just jumped 30 beats a minute there. Like, I get
But
if you want to leave because you don't like it and you want to go live the way that the people live in the town you're moving to. But I mean, they're moving and then acting the same way and requesting them to bring in this type of judge and defund this and just stay where you were at.
the crazy thing is you see that same thing here, in a way, because people will move out of town and they'll build this housing development out in a cornfield somewhere. And then the first thing they'll do is they'll develop an HOA. And then, the country to get the rules and, this, I'll tell you, you can or can't do this. And you go out there and form an HOA and argue with your neighbors about what you can and can't do. Why would you do that? If you move to the country, you want your nearest neighbor to be like a mile away.
Right. Yeah. We just moved into our new house a few months ago and there is an HOA here. But like after reading the HOA, I'm like, okay, because I'm anti HOA personally. But this HOA is really about this neighborhood. We're the young people in the neighborhood in our late 40s. Like most people are retired. So majority of the HOA is just based on maintaining a clean aesthetic of your house, which as long as you are a proper homeowner, you're fine. And then
Right.
paying dues on a quarterly basis because they have a landscape company that does all the lawn service and snow removal in the winter. And I'm like, it's like our HOA dues is like $114 a month. I'm like, I can't pay a kid to mow my grass $100 a month. Right.
Right.
But there isn't these crazy things about buildings and fences and this and decorations only before this date. And it's not petty. So I'm like, all right, I'm cool with it.
That wouldn't be so bad. My experience with the HOA stuff has been working in developments with HOAs, and it's never fun. It's always a headache.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, when like our neighbor a couple of years ago, because we used to live 4 houses down from the house we just bought. We moved for 3 years and moved right back. But we moved 5 miles in 5 years and 3 moves. I don't want to talk about it. But like, yeah, he got some pilings drilled and he was building like a small addition / deck. And another guy's getting ready to do an expansion now. And it really just comes down to maintain the same siding as the rest of the home so that the uniformity of the name, but like, there isn't any like, oh, that's too close or encroaching. And so it's pretty laid back.
Yeah, it's crazy. I've seen people have to raise or lower or move they want to build a detached garage and have to, you know, lower the elevation for line of sight for their neighbors to still be able to see whatever they want to see, or have to move it back 3 feet from the road, because there's like a curve through the development, and the line of sight coming down that hill in the wintertime, if that garage is 3 feet out, then we can't see far enough ahead to know if somebody's coming up the hill or somebody's in the ditch. It's like,
there's a story. This was years ago, but there was a story about this guy in Colorado. It's the exact same thing, right? He built this expansion onto his home, and the neighbor, I think it was the mayor of the town, made him through the HOA redo it and lower it because it was blocking the view of the mountains from his home. So that guy, like on the side of a gable, they always put the attic vents.
mm-hmm.
He made the vents. He made the vent with multiple vents, so it was literally a middle finger with the round bottom, and then like the upper vents. He had like 4 or 5 vents with the middle one being taller, staring at the neighbor's house. And he's just like, find that in the HOA to tell me to change it.
Right.
But I mean, you imagine how much money that would cost to do that.
I've seen some crazy things with HOAs and people having to jump through hoops, and yeah, it's that's one of the first things I ask if I go into an area that looks like it might have one. I want to see the bylaws of your HOA to decide whether I even want to mess with anything in here or not.
So I do think though that there's a lot of good HOAs. I think it's the bad apple scenario, right? You hear the horror stories. So then
Hmm.
all of a sudden you associate all HOAs as being negative. But I've also heard a lot of guys that can go into different neighborhoods and develop a relationship with the HOA board and become a preferred contractor. So when somebody new moves in and they go, "Hey, who do you recommend for mulching for a new concrete patio in the backyard?" Like, "Oh, call this guy. He's worked in the neighborhood. He's great. He knows our HOA rules, when he can start work, when he needs to be done by the day." And like they've like it's really been good for us because we're able to get multiple jobs and we're back and we're not fighting the HOA. The HOA is actually recommending us.
That would be nice. My experience with the HOAs has been the board don't even get along with each other. So it's always a big piss and match, on who's going to get their way.
Yeah,
Nobody wins.
right. That's when you just take the mini X on your trailer to the board meeting and go, "My boom's bigger than all yours." I'm
Yeah.
on fire with the
Go.
shitty jokes that Tracy hates today. Yes.
Uh,
Oh, that's funny, man. Um, just because of my background, I always love to ask this question. Are you rolling solely on word of mouth and just expertise for the work you've done, or are you still investing time and energy into marketing and branding?
I mess with the social media stuff a little bit, but everything. I don't. I spend time, which I guess is money, but I do not financially contribute to anything as far as like marketing stuff goes. I don't pay for any ads. I don't pay for. I'll do stuff for if my buddy's kid is raising money for their football team or little league and that type of stuff. I'll do that stuff all day long. But as far as like Facebook, stuff, ads, or the radio or any of that stuff, no, everything's all word of mouth.
Yeah. I'm a firm believer, and I always will be, that you always have to have a small amount of money invested into maintaining your brand. So, like, even if you just paid for 10 radio commercials a month, like, we don't got to spend a month, but just because there's a reason that Coca-Cola, who shouldn't have to spend $1 in advertising, still spends an enormous amount because they don't want the next
Right.
guy to be able to take their throne.
Right.
I think there's always got to be a small budget in branding, but I always say pat yourself on the back when you can start looking at your entire marketing budget as a branding budget and not a lead generation budget.
Right.
And because if you're at the beginning of your days and you're scrambling and you need to get work for the next 3 weeks, you can't afford to be sponsoring the kids' baseball team because there's zero
Right.
return. There's no way to track it. There's you don't know if you're going to get any business from that. Like, that's
Right.
shit you do when you're comfortable. Like, you're not worried about paying the bills in 90 days because we've got that covered in the nest egg.
Right.
Now we can invest into the community because we've taken care of our business.
Yep.
And that's when life gets fun, doesn't it, Charlie? Because now that you can make an impact and a difference in all these kids or different organizations, and then you're getting your business recognized that way, but you're actually making a difference for people in your local community too.
Right. Yeah. I'm fortunate, I guess, up to this point where the needing to, I don't know, worrying about the work and that I'm going to have the money or whatever isn't really a huge concern, I
You've
guess.
you've passed that hurdle, right? So unless a recession
Yeah,
comes and like the whole economy changes in your area, you've passed that
right.
hurdle. Like, you're past the new guy. Like, you beat the odds on the 80% of businesses closing in the first 3 to 5 years.
Right.
So now, as long as you don't
Yeah.
mess it up and the economy doesn't, as long as Russia doesn't nuclear bomb us in the next 90 days before Biden leaves the White House, You can focus on different things,
Yep.
and it's awesome.
And, and it's nice that we have multiple streams of income, some other things with the farm, and my better half has a really good job too, so that helps things. So we're comfortable.
So I'm dying to ask you, like, do you own the farm outright, or is it the family farm with your parents?
We own it outright.
Do you own the equipment? Does the farm own the equipment and lease it to the construction company for all the tax benefits, or no?
The excavator and the skid loader are both owned by the farm. Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Good man. Good man.
The only thing that Dirtworx owns is my dump truck and that B&B trailer. Everything else is owned and leased by the farm.
Yeah. And like we worked with a guy probably 4 years ago that was asking questions about doing it that way, and we started digging into it. I remember, I think he was in Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
It was amazing. Like the farm agricultural doesn't get taxed on this, and then
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, this is just a compounding tax savings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we didn't pay any tax on the equipment when we bought them because
Right.
the farm bought them.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you're paying minimal income on the lease
Mm-hmm.
income because
Yep.
you can offset that with the crops and the fertilizer and all of that through the farm. And then the business, now you get to write off 100% every month, every year, because it's not a payment to ownership, it's a lease payment.
Right. Yeah.
And it just cascades.
It's if you can get it done that way, it is definitely the way to go.
Yeah. That's where I like to use my big words. It's very advantageous.
Yeah.
Advantageous. I can't spell it, but I like to say it. Oh man. Okay, niching down, taking more control of your customers, being less dependent on subs.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say 2025 goes to plan and then you start dialing that in and like your business can start growing and booming. How big do you want your business to get? Like how many employees, how much equipment? Like what's your end goal?
Um, I would like so my plan for 2025 is I am going right now. I am 100% just me. I have a couple buddies of mine that are retired or that work like jobs where they work a week and then they're off a week and then they work a week and they're off a week. So I can call those guys in when I need to help me now. But next year, my plan is in the spring to bring a guy on, at least part time, to kind of help with loosening the load. As far as where do I plan to take the business, I never really had any intention of making a large business. I want to do. I don't want all that overhead that goes along with it. Um, I would rather, just keep it me, and then in the summertime, my boy works with me. That's kind of nice. Me and a couple guys maybe at max, but when I ordered my equipment, bought my equipment, I was very specific about the size of equipment that I wanted and the attachments and everything that it would allow me to be a one-man band.
As efficient as two or three guys. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I invest in technology when I get the opportunity to keep from needing that other guy.
It's smart. I mean, yeah, the expense is heavy up front, but like we talk about, how much was the rotator for your mini X? 30?
30 for just a bare unit. So in rotator and attachments, I have more from the coupler
The
deal
neck, yeah.
down in attachments than I paid for the whole machine.
Right. So, I mean, let's just say it's 70, 80 grand, 100 grand.
Mm-hmm.
Most business owners are like, Jesus, that's a lot of money. I can do a lot of work with a couple guys for that. I'm like, yeah, but if you pay a guy $25 an hour, he's making 50K a year. Not to mention it costs you another 30% on the back end to pay the taxes, the work comp, the insurance. So now you're talking, what's that? $70,000 a year for that one employee every year.
Every year.
Every year. Like your 100K is paid off in 14 to 16 months of versus an employee. And then it's done.
Yeah.
Until it gets replaced, which then you get to write it off too. And you get like, so the technology is huge. And then I talk about this all the time. So guys are probably, it's a broken record. When you do start hiring guys, they don't want to leave you because they don't want to go back to working with the non-technology equipment.
Right.
It makes them sticky to you when you find good ones.
Yeah. I could definitely see that. Next year I plan to add like a 2D grade control system to it. I would have liked to have done it this year. Probably could have done it this year, but
when you get that, you'll be shocked at how fast you can dig and set septic tanks.
Right.
And then you're going to look at that and go, how the hell did I work without it? Now imagine an employee using that equipment, getting an offer for $2 more an hour, but he has to do it the old way. He's like, I'm good where I'm at. Man, my job's easy because of this equipment.
Right. Yeah, I think I'm going to go with an iDig system is kind of where I'm leaning toward.
That's the one everyone talks about these days. I mean, it must be dialed in because I hear more people talking about wanting that one or using that one than complaining about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
it seems just rotators too. I mean, I have Kinsoffer Knox. They're fairly new to the American market. Rototilt and like Incon and Steel Wrist a little bit is getting bigger now, but I did a ton of research before I got it, and I don't regret it for a second. It's been a great piece of equipment, and I know guys that have rototilts. I know a couple guys that have Incons, and they've had problems and not been taken care of. I've had a couple problems with mine, but I tell you what, they're on speed dial. They always answer the phone and they always take care of me. So
that's 9/10 the battles, customer service.
Yep.
We talk about that a lot too. Like everyone's like, what brand should I buy of a skid steer or mini X? And I'm like, whichever brand has the best service in your area, because time is money. And if you can't get parts for 4 weeks and they don't give a shit about you,
right.
What's the brand mean?
Right. Yeah, I'm a Takeuchi guy. I've got both pieces of equipment. Or if I was to go away from that, which I almost did, I probably would have went to Kubota.
Yeah.
I'm very specific about my skid steer. The roll up door is an absolute must. I had a case before this one, and the swing door I didn't even do it. It got ripped off the thing like 3 times. I did it once, and it's just, I won't ever have another machine with a swing door.
Yeah. And see, I'm the exact opposite of you, because I'll never forget the day I got into a Gel, which basically is a Takeuchi.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't get that fucking door to open, and I was stuck in it.
Interesting.
So I was like, I don't know if I like these doors. Like it was just catchy and old, but again, it's personal experience, right?
Right.
And if I'm going to be in a machine all day long, Takeuchi's hard for me because it rides like a damn bulldozer.
They absolutely.
But it also pushes like a bulldozer. I mean,
yeah.
If you need to move dirt, that's the machine to get. That TL12 is a beast.
Yeah, I have a TL8, and I've ran the TL12. I had one for about a month when I had a wiring harness issue with mine. The guys that I work with for my service and that type of stuff, I had bought this machine from them, and called them and said, "Hey, having this issue, don't know what the deal is." They took it up. They thought they had it fixed, didn't get it fixed. They came back down and got it. When they came down to get it, because they didn't get it fixed the first time, they brought a TL12 and dropped it off and said, "Here, when we get yours figured out, we'll come get this one."
See, now that's good service.
Yeah, they're phenomenal guys. Phenomenal. The TL12 was a fun machine. There's a lot of room, a lot of power. But for the way I run my business and the type of work that I do, a TL12 is just too destructive. Can't go across sidewalks. You got to be careful on driveways. I mean, my machine, I can take it anywhere.
Yeah, we were using that case 420B, and it's it's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's too big if you're not doing large scale agriculture or commercial projects.
Yep.
Like we did some final grading in some new neighborhoods, and well, you better be careful because that machine's just so big you don't even notice when you're going to cut a corner or swing the ass end, and it's not maneuverable for those tight residential lots. I found.
Right. Yeah, I love the TL8. I think it's the perfect power to size. I mean, the thing will lift like crazy. You can dump 16 ton of dirt and you can set the bucket down and push right through the pile, no problem. It's insane the amount of power. But like what you said, the creature comforts and it's, I have a really good relationship with my chiropractor.
Yeah, it's a trade-off, right? And we're still young enough that we can handle the lack of creature comforts, but there's going to be a day that you're like, "Hey, Talk, it's been fun."
Yeah, I don't know.
I need a little more cushion in the seat and a little more compression in the suspension. It's not like I'm in my 40s anymore.
I'll be putting an aftermarket air ride seat or something in it. I just love the way that they grade and they dig and the power. And, I've ran Deere and Kubota and Gale and everything else there is, whackers. And I can never wait to get back to my TL8.
Yeah. I feel like, and please tell me if I'm wrong, but if you were going to do a large snow removal operation, I'm like, those whackers look perfect for that.
Yeah, they're a good machine. There was the one thing that I didn't like about it was the door. So other than that, I mean, they're a good machine. Like I said, if I went away from Talkit, I would go to a Kubota and that.
Yeah.
I know Gale is supposed to be releasing a new line of machines, I think first quarter next year, that comes with a 2-piece roll-up door that there's a dealer about 10 minutes, 15 minutes from me that they're, as soon as that thing comes in, we're bringing you one. You're going to demo that, this and that. And I'm like, we'll see.
Yeah. But again, don't they come off the same line or the same factory?
Not anymore. I think that Manitou owns them both, but I don't. Or sorry,
Manitou bought Gale. That's what it was.
Owns Gale. Yes,
they bought Gale.
Yeah. So, but they used to. Gale was just a rebranded Talk.
Yeah.
There was like 3 different brands that did the same thing. There was one
Mustang, that's like Gale, and Takeuchi.
There was another one too that was like it was like a teal blue. It was almost like the Sunward colors.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I can't think of the name of those though. That Andrew Karnovaki, whatever, on YouTube, that's what he uses.
Yep. Yeah. That's I can't remember what they're called. I don't know. Durability wise, I don't think that you can beat the Talk with anything. I mean, everything on it. So the story that I was told is Talk was actually developed for the rental market. That when Mr. Takeuchi designed that machine and the very first track loader, It was designed from the ground up. It was only ever meant to be a track loader, where every other brand out there is a wheel machine that's been, converted to
Converted to a
run
track machine.
tracks. So that's why the Tox will outperform any other track machine out there, because from the ground up, that's what they were for. But again, they were designed for the rental market. That's where he wanted to structure his business. So everything is way overbuilt. I mean, look at the here, compare that to like John Deere or a Cat, it's like twice the size. We have a big John
Oh,
Deere dealer here, and I've seen two. What is it? The 60Gs. I've seen two of them where that buckle on the front of the house there has busted that pin, and the whole arm and everything fell off of it.
they had that problem with skid steers years ago too, where the attachment pins were kept breaking off all the time, and like it ended up being pot steel from China.
Mm-hmm.
But I've noticed, and this is my personal opinion. Sorry if I offend you in this regard, but I noticed like Deer and Cat, they're so worried about the dollar on the bottom number for the spreadsheet that I feel like the quality of their, especially the skid steers, it is not what it was even 5 years ago, and it sure the hell ain't what it was 10 years ago.
I agree completely. I agree completely. I think it's that way with their agricultural side of things too. We have all John Deere equipment. All of our stuff. We don't have anything new. I think the newest piece of equipment we have on the farm is 2000,
Yeah.
and that's not going to change. We're not looking or in the market to buy anything new for that reason. Is the stuff that we have is just indestructible. I mean, it
Right.
was built back when stuff was built right, and they cared about, that stuff. The new stuff, we have obviously farmers and stuff all around us. And our neighbor, he's a couple miles away, just bought a new combine last year. And he told me, he's just this harvest. He's like, Charlie, he said, I'm embarrassed. I would be embarrassed to tell you how much money I have in that machine. And it literally has been sitting in the field, with a service truck beside it like 6 times this season, and it's
Right.
brand new. And our old 9510, man, she just keeps trucking.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I got into a 259 not too long ago, and I'm just like, just feels, again, my opinion, feels cheap.
Yeah. I will say cat, I'm a big guy. So when I get in a cat, I wear that thing. It's like putting on a pair of pants. I
Oh,
mean, there's
100%.
not near the room in there, but I will say comfort wise, like if I was going to take a skid steer to the grocery store, that'd be the one.
I don't know. That case was really comfortable and had enough room for my wide ass.
Okay. I've been in. There's a guy here in town. He has a Hitachi little mini hoe, and then he has a new case. What is it, like a six? Is it a 620 or something like that?
That's the
Six.
big one.
Yeah, it's a Haas,
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't too bad. There's quite a bit of room in it, but man, it sure seemed like the ass end went for days. It was a long ways back
And
there.
that's that counterbalance weight, so you get the lifting capacity, and that's the problem when you get into those 100 horsepower machines,
Mm-hmm.
where if you're doing residential work, like you got to be careful when you swing that thing.
Right, right.
So,
It
well,
was a
Charlie,
nice
man, I
machine.
really appreciate you taking time out of what appears to be a maintenance day for you and the old girl behind you.
Getting ready to leave the shop. As soon as we're done here, we're going to town to dig some footings.
Okay. Okay.
So,
Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate your time. If anyone's interested in connecting with Charlie, saying, hey, thanks for sharing your story, spending time with us on the podcast, we'll put a link to his social media profile in the show notes. We'll also put a link to Skid Steer Nation and Groundbreaking Growth in the show notes. So if you're looking for skid steer attachments, want high quality American made attachments, and need shit that will last and not break down, head over to skidsteernation.com for your next attachment. And business development. That's what we do at Groundbreaking Growth. Check it out. If we can help, we'd love to be a part of it. Charlie, thanks again for jumping on and spending, what did we do? Almost an hour and a half together.
Yeah, it's hot. I guess I didn't realize it was almost 12:30 already.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
all
I
right.
love it. No, that's fantastic. So, all right, boys,
Yeah.
until next week, stay warm out there. It's getting chilly if you live anywhere near that Midwest East Coast. Like it's winter is here. Little girl's speaking.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
We'll see you guys next week. Thanks so much.